morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching today. This is Brad Clank here with Marco Balvanera, and we are here for the Dinner with Races Continental Tire Cup, and we're at the glorious Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Skippy with the new damage model. This should be a very, very interesting and entertaining event.
Exactly, Brad. Yeah. what
Yeah,
could go wrong tonight, no? With this combination, especially because we saw already some explosive crashes in practice.
Yes, the guys are. Seems like they've been out there testing that damage model, but and from the looks of the session details, we should see no DQ limit and unlimited fast repairs, which they may very well need with these slipstreaming battles we're going to see tonight. Obviously, I haven't been here to cover the series previously, but I have watched some of these events. This one not being multi-class, but I do still anticipate similar action to what I've witnessed on previous occasions. Marco has filled me in and let me know that this is a combination they have run before, and it was quite an eventful race.
Yeah, it was madness, especially the drafting was something else. Actually, I still remember with great pleasure not only the action that we had on the racetrack on that particular day, but also the fact that in the booth with me were Ricky and Jordan Taylor, which was an immense honor, and I am very grateful for this championship for giving me the chance to try, to give me the chance to commentate with such illustrious legends, and not only that, but also in other races I had the pleasure to commentate with real life drivers, and we had some fantastic races throughout the season. It is fitting that in the last chance race here of the season we are going to race with this crazy combination. Of course, the action will not stop tonight because tomorrow at the same time we will have the World Finals. This will be a multi-class event with the HPD and the Legends on Monza Oval, right turning Monza Oval to be precise, and this will determine the champion for the season. Of course, the drivers who will be able to take part in that race, the championship contenders, so to speak, in the Monza race, will drive the HPD, whilst there will be several real-life drivers, and they will be racing with the legends. That is going to make for an interesting combination, especially because I think that the Monza Oval is not really the best oval. I mean, certainly not the safest oval, especially in iRacing.
Yeah, it's a little bit bumpy, similar to the older included version of the Daytona track with all its bumps. But the banking at Monza is probably a little bit more dangerous. So yeah, that one will be definitely something to watch tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to coming back and covering that one as well.
You know, especially Brad, since the HPDs will certainly lap much faster than the Legends tomorrow, and again, other than being bumpy, the track is also very narrow, so I'm expecting some big carnage tomorrow. But let's not get too much ahead of ourselves because we still have, of course, a race to go, and this is basically the last chance saloon for these drivers. And judging by the way the racing will work here in Indianapolis, what we saw in the past, this is going to be, Brad, basically a free-for-all for all these drivers because drafting will play a huge part, and you can see already the drivers are trying it out, testing the limits of their cars in bump drafting situations.
Yeah, so looks like got about a dozen drivers or so in the session at the moment. I'm not sure how many we expecting. I know they've had quite large fields throughout the season in some of the other events that I've seen. But this race, Marco, this is just for selected drivers to qualify through, or we should see the normal field?
I am expecting only the drivers that did not punch their ticket to the season finale in here. But you know, with dinner with racers, you never ever know. I mean, we saw the race last Saturday in the Pro Light tracks in Road Atlanta. In the end, changing from a normal race to a rallycross race with drivers taking joker laps in the final chicane at Road Atlanta. So drivers sitting like in back in 10th place, they were able to come back and win the race with no problem. So honestly, I have no idea what to expect. What I see now is oh dear, that's a right rear tire, no, front left. Front right is gone, and also the nose of that car. John Cantu from the great state of California, running around with big damage. I see also Charles Kleinhagen trying to test. I saw a beautiful car there in the mix, but I cannot find it back. There it is. Jeffrey Collinson, look at those reflections, ladies and gentlemen. Perfectly, getting in the spirit of the new costume spec maps for racing. You see, testing the damage model as well, and getting a magical repair, basically. No, he's still going sideways. Oh, wow. I have to say, even before we went on the air, Jeffrey has been very, very good at testing the damage model, so he's doing a great job so far. As we are just about to end qualifying, practice 5 minutes away. Oh man, this is going to be an exciting race to call. Only one lap of qualifying, so you better get it right when it's your turn.
Yeah, the qualifying times, I expect to see them very close to each other, but I don't think the qualifying will have too much of a determination over the end result somehow with the slipstreaming we're going to see today.
Let's see. Apologies. Let's see how fast they go on the straight. Will they be able to hit 200? I think so. 5 gears, of course, these cars. Basically, I mean, the original iRacing car, so to speak, the Skip Barber, just got a big makeover, at least aesthetically, with basically completely new model, which we can see in action tonight, and you can see how much slidey it is getting into these corners, and of course getting through another iteration of the new damage model, Brad, and the new tire model. How do you think the new tire model, since you are a big expert of this car, will play a part in this race on an oval tonight?
Yeah, I think the last tweaks that they've done to the Skippy has been a step in the right direction. It's taken a few sort of evolutions of the tire model, this car being the first one that they sort of tested it on. But I think because these cars they do have the wings, but those wings really don't help a lot to glue the car to the track. They're more there for aesthetics than what they offer in downforce. So these cars do slide around quite a bit, similar to Formula Fords, which are raced in all kinds of different countries around the world, and those cars do slide around quite a bit in real life as well. I have seen the Skippies in action at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, when I was there quite some years ago. So yeah, it's been fun to see them and race them in on the service after seeing them in the flesh. And I've got to say, yeah, the model they've got in there now with the upgraded graphics looks fantastic. They've really done it. It's really spot on to what I recall and the photos I've got from that trip. But yeah, these guys will definitely be sliding around. When they're in the draft, they're going to have to be wary of that heading into the corners. And then try not to slide up the track into the car on the outside. and we'll probably see some tyre wear come into play if we have long runs. I'm not sure, Marco, do they have is there a fuel tank restriction on for this event, or can we expect them to go a long way on the tank?
I have no idea, to be honest. I also knew that in the first round they had here in Indianapolis, they didn't have any cautions, automatic cautions, but we had a couple of manual cautions being thrown in the race. I'm noticing that Dustin Hamilton has played around with the matte paint, because you can see only the Star Wars Rebel Alliance logo is reflecting the sunlight. Speaking of which, as you can see on the right side of your screen, it is already 5 minutes past 8. I don't know if they set the server so that in qualifying and the race we go back a few hours, because otherwise we might be ending this race, I don't know if in darkness, but it certainly is going to be, sun is going to be very very low on the horizon. Of course, this series also had a beautiful race in motorsport with the IndyCar at night earlier in the season, which I had the pleasure to commentate on. So I expect everything out of these guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end the race at night. And as you know, no floodlights around Indianapolis, so that is going to be very very tough for these drivers. But we'll see when qualifying starts. 50% fuel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dinner, with the Racers official account on YouTube. So 50% fuel for these cars.
Okay, that's good to know. There'll definitely be some strategy come into play with that. I can't imagine they'll be able to get through the whole event without stopping for fuel, and then it'll be a question of trying to time your stop, preferably with other cars that you're drafting with, so you're not just going in by yourself. So yeah, we'll have to look for that during the race to see how that plays out. And we've got a wounded car heading back to the pits there to get ready for qualifying.
Man, this car is absolutely beautiful. Look at that, look at the reflections, especially with the low sun, as checkered flag is out on practice. And we are ready to go qualifying, and I hope and I imagine it's going to be a long qualifying, and yes, that will be that. So let's see who is going to get pole position tonight. Like you were saying, pole position maybe not the most important thing around here, but certainly if you can stay at the front, especially at the start of the race, you avoid yourself the chance of being involved in something, some of the mess that can happen, especially at the start, as you see Gavin Boyer
Ooh,
going
cold tires.
all tires. Very, I mean, this guy has the same livery as me. I have a full magenta car with reflective chrome wheels on my Skip Barber, so it's nice that there are other people with great taste in liveries out there.
Hopefully it brings him more luck than it has just there on the pit exit. But yeah, it's been good to see the painting community. Oh, we've already got one in the wall on the inside. It's Lance Schneider not getting his qualifying off to the start that he was hoping for. But yeah, as I was saying, it's been great to see the painting communities really get behind the new additions in the new build across all different categories of cars. There's been some fantastic liveries popping up in the various leagues and on trading paints for everyone to use. So it's good to see. I think it was a bit of an unexpected sort of early Christmas present for all the painters out there.
Yeah, something I've been waiting a lot. And I have to be honest, I've been playing around with it quite a bit in these past few days. So here we go with qualifying. I think the first driver to set his time will be Nicolas Isidro, as you can see him racing with his number 5 Skip Barber with, I think, some beautiful shell, almost Penske style livery. And And here we go, coming out of 3 and 4.
Yeah, down the short
Sliding.
chute.
Look at the look at the slide there. And here we go on the start-finish line for Nicolas Isidro. We'll set the benchmark for all these drivers to beat, and it looks like we already have a driver trying to beat that. No, he won't. John Cantu, what happened to him? Because he was setting purple times. In the meantime, Jeffrey Collinson beats by almost 2/10 of a second the lap. Maybe John is trying to qualify as far back as possible.
Yeah, it could be tactical there. He looked like he's got a bit of damage. But, front wing was slightly hanging down on one side, I think, but not enough to cause that difference in lap time. I think that was deliberate.
Boyego's on a provisional pole. Here we go with Lance Snyder, number 75, trying to improve on his time. Or better yet, set a time, because he still hasn't done so. And we have, I think, a last minute entry, so we make 13 drivers. Oh, the engine is gone. So he was... Lance Snyder was really running this car in a very extreme setup. Or maybe he went down the gears just for fun on the start-finish straight.
Possibly that could have been the issue for Cantu. We may not have picked that up because he was kind of just limping across the line, so that could be something to watch for. Obviously, it's pretty much just full throttle attacking these cars, so the engines may get a bit warm.
As we can see now, it's 5 minutes past 8 in the evening, so no signs of the sky getting lighter. So we might have a very dark end of the race. 50 laps with this car. They are going to be quite long laps with the Skip Barber. Of course, cautions as well will prolong the matter for a bit. I think we also have a time limit. I will tell that to you when the race starts. It will pop up on our screen. Drew Eisenman coming home, and not a very quick lap, or is it? His pole position just by, wow, 0.012. And basically just at the final moment, he gets pole position. And Brad, I think we can go through the starting grid for this race.
So here we are for the Indianapolis Races Continental Tire Cup. And as we just saw, Drew Iceman on pole with a very narrow margin over Gavin Boyett. Jeffrey Collison lines up on the second row in P3 with Charles Kleinhagen in P4 next to him. Then we've got Nicolas Isidro and Lance Snyder on the third row. Noah Wheeler and John Cantu. And then we've got Chad Dalton, Sean Heckman rounding out the top 10. And then Benjamin Wedge, Dustin Hamilton on the sixth row, and Charles Knabe is going to round out the field there. Not a big margin at the front for Collie as we expected. And the driver's just getting ready for the grid. We'll see a rolling start as we have the pace car out there in true oval racing fashion. 24 degrees track. And it is indeed still the late evening. So yeah, the tail end of the race will be interesting. These cars have no lights, of course, and neither does the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, so I think it's officially a night race, this one, or at the very least, it's going to end at night. Even though I think it's the 15th of May, if I'm not mistaken, as per usual. So they will have a little bit of extra light to play with. We know that Indianapolis, I think, no, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. I always mistake it with, no, it's Pittsburgh is still in the Eastern time zone, but it's very much to the west. So basically it's at the extreme confine of the Eastern time zone. So The sun sets very late there in the summer, but of course May is not summer just yet in the northern hemisphere, and so my point was completely moot. So we are rolling and ready to go for the 50 laps of this race. Very important race, of course, to get into the Dinner with Racers Continental Tire Cup World Final tomorrow at Monza. Same time, same place, at 9 p.m. Eastern on Dinners with Racers official YouTube channel.
Do we know the cutoff for how many of these drivers will actually make it through?
I think only the winner, but again, we will know later.
If it is only the winner, that's definitely going to make things quite tactical and heated at the front. So these guys should put on a good show for us. You can see a couple of the drivers there trying to get a bit of temperature in the tyres ready for the start. You want to be a little bit careful doing that though, because the Skippy is quite easy to drop the car while you're trying to warm the tyres there. You just need gentle inputs on the steering wheel.
Ready to go then? Pace car will be off and we will be ready to go racing for the penultimate time this season in the Dinner with the Racer Continental Tire Cup. Here we go.
Pace car peels off into the lane. Now Iceman has control. Well, looks like he waited right until the race went green, and they're off. Already looks like we're going to be heading for 3-4 wide action into turn 1.
So we have confirmation that only the winner will advance indeed for the big finale tomorrow evening.
Well, that's probably unfortunate for the drivers, but great for us because that means it's going to be desperation out there towards the end of the race, which should provide some entertaining racing for us. You can see the guys all trying to sort themselves out into lanes here to work together with the draft. We did see him testing bump drafting earlier. I'm not sure
here
if
we
that.
go.
Oh,
Massive wreck.
already.
Oh. And I think we are staying green. This is a massive hit.
They have thrown a caution.
Oh, caution is out. Caution is out, so we can go through the replays, because I think, especially the 999, maybe Dustin Hamilton was... No, Dustin Hamilton was okay. Actually, it was Chad Dalton and Charles Kleinhagen, the two drivers who really got the worst of it, and they were like innocent bystanders. They were so far... Oh, look at that. I mean, that was a massive hit for, I think that was Chad Dalton. I mean, they both had a great, but the way the Dalton car flipped, let's go on board with him. Ooh. Nice barrel roll, and now we are under caution. And of course, yes, they have unlimited fast repairs, but they will need to limp the cars back to the pits, which they couldn't do, so they have to take the long tow. And of course, this will put them at a disadvantage to start the race.
Yeah, not sure what that tow time will be versus the pace car. Hopefully they can all get back out on the lead lap and caught back up before we go green again. But yeah, that's such a small little piece of contact that started that chain reaction there. So I think probably just the first of probably a few at least, but maybe perhaps many incidents to come later in the race, especially as it gets closer to the end and they're fighting for that important position to go through to tomorrow's event. See a couple more cars coming into the lane. That could be for some repairs or strategically topping up on the fuel.
I think Cantu has got some damage on the nose of the car. Or maybe that's his livery. No, that is his livery. He's got I think a dog on the side of the car. Or a sheep. One of the two. So he's in. Same as Noah Wheeler. Still towing back to the pits. Charles Kleinhagen and Chad Dalton.
Busy pit lane. I see a couple of the cars were able to limp their way around and have just got into their pit boxes now. So after all that, we've got Nicholas Sidro, who's been able to make his way to the front. And just trying to see where. So yeah, Drew Iserman, he ended up down in position 10 after that's all shaken out at the moment.
Here we go, the two victims, main victims of the crash coming out of the pits. They will be, I think, one lap down on the rest of the field.
We'll see what happens here. They might get a wave around perhaps. If not, there'll probably be opportunities to get those laps back.
Oh, the two leaders are coming in, Isidro and Boyer. So Wedge will be your new leader. And I think we might be going green this time around, you know? Let's see.
Yeah,
no, we will not.
Yeah, this will be the one to green, I think. But I think this is drivers starting to play the strategy game with fuel here. Just taking the opportunity to top the car up with the limited tank size. See if they can get a bit further without stopping later on. Or just some drivers may have already made the decision that they're going to come in and top the car up on each caution, so to try and reduce the risk of a green flag stop later in the race.
That is a smart strategy, especially with a field that is not very big, I think, Brad, because in the end you're not going to lose many positions, and of course it is not that difficult, especially with the drafting and slipstreaming, to get back to the front of the pack. So I'd say that that is a very, very smart thing to do, and that is definitely what I would have done. As we can see here, Dalton and Kleinhagen one lap down on the rest of the field, but with a chance of coming back. So let's see what the race is in store for us. Now, of course, you can see on the top left of your screen there is a 1 hour 25 minute limit. If we keep pacing, I don't think we're going to get to the full 50 laps, because these pace laps are around 2 minutes each. So it is quite long. It is long pace laps around here, and of course also long pace cars in general. You get maybe 3-4 laps, so that could be an issue as we go further and further into this event. And now the lights on the pace car should be out, yes, and we are ready to go back green. So let's have another look at the crash that we had earlier. On board with John Cantu, as you can see, there was this contact in front of him, and then all hell broke loose.
Kind of what we were speaking about with the tire model and the cold tires at the start of the race there. It's all triggered with one of the cars just starting to slide up the racetrack a little bit, and he couldn't quite catch it before he made contact with the car on the outside. And then we were treated to the Skip Barber acrobatic display.
Wave around for Chad Dalton, but not for Charles Kleinhagen.
So they must be using the lucky dog option on the caution.
Mm-hmm.
So just the first driver lap down gets waved around, and he may not quite catch up to the pack before they go green though. It is quite a long lap here, so we'll see how he goes. Okay, this is interesting because Isidro was in the lead before, and then he came in and did that stop. He's looked like testing out the grip on the grass, but yeah, there's not much grass down there. Not much grip down there.
So we have the late green because also Kleinhagen is getting the wave around. And so we will go green next time by. Not this time, you see the lights on the pace car are back on. And so these drivers will have to wait a bit more. And of course this will mean that Dalton for sure, maybe also Kleinhagen will be able to catch back to the rear end of the field, even though you can see on the track map it's quite a long track from where they are back to the end of the pacing line. And so let's a bit more of the carnage.
You can see the car in the middle that just slides up the racetrack, hits the 13, and then these other guys really did not have much time to react.
And as Darrell Waltrip would say, thank goodness for the safer barriers.
Dalton's still making his way around to try and catch the field up. Not sure if they're going to wait for Dalton and Kleinhagen. We'll see, because Kleinhagen is still about half a lap behind the pack, so you may not catch them up before they get round to take the green here. If they do indeed take the green. Lights are out on the safety car, that would indicate that we are going green.
Yeah, Dalton is still, okay, just now we caught the back of the pacing line. And I think we are going back to the green flag.
So here we go. It's the first restart. We didn't quite get a full lap in the first time. Let's see how we go this time. Was that Dalton just drove straight up the middle? It looked like he just drove straight up the middle of the two rows there. Ooh, oh no.
Oh, here we go. Wheeler is around. And also we have Naub, Isidro. Big damage, we stay green.
I think Hamilton's got some damage as well. No, looks okay. Might have just been the matte finish on the car tricking me. See Cantu sliding around a little bit in front there. Trying to pick a lane. He's decided to go up on the high side to follow Dalton for now. And then they got 3 wide out onto the straight.
Oh, man, that was so close. Good run from Hamilton now. As you see, hello to all of our viewers asking for where is the bump drafting. I agree with you guys. Even though they tried it in practice and the new damage model doesn't really like bump drafting.
Yeah, that small front wing is quite fragile. Not really built for bump drafting, unfortunately.
As you can see here.
Yeah, Sidro, he'll be a bit disappointed with that. He was in the lead under the caution, and then decided to go in the pit lane and top up the car with fuel, and hasn't played too well for him there. Got caught up in that incident. We see Wedge coming through on the inside to take the lead there. Well, Cantu's got a run on the inside.
Oh, he's sliding!
Oh,
Good save.
Get loose on the exit. But it shows even with a couple of laps under the tyres, still not giving optimum grip. The driver's going to have to wheel these things the whole way, I think. And Charles Knab is coming out of the lane. Looks like he'll be going a lap down. On board with Hamilton. Benjamin Wedge, the car in front here, just decides to feather the throttle a little bit there. And we're going to get a bit of a train happening on the outside, so Cantu might get overrun by all these guys here if they stick together. It looks like Dalton might get hung up to the dry. They all come down to the inside line. This will be an interesting phase for the drivers, just trying to test out how the slipstreaming is going to work, how much tow they can get from a single car or a train, get used to that momentum and the closing speed, and what kind of overlap they can get on the entry of the next corner.
As we're having a very nice green flag run right now, Isidro and Naub, now they are one lap down, they have to opt for a caution to come back and maybe have a chance for the win. Here we go. Dalton is the leader, but of course Cantu now will have a good run. Hamilton and Wedge, there's a big rift between the top four and the rest of the field. As you can see, Eisenman and Snyder are the next two cars, and another duo of Collinson and Boyer in 7th and 8th. But back to the 2x2 leading pack.
Yeah, that second group, led by Eisenman, this is exactly what they want to see. They want to see these guys at the front continue to go 2x2 and change position. Because if they keep doing that, and that group behind works together and stays in formation, there's a good chance they'll be able to get back up onto these cars without having to need a caution.
I think
so they're all fanning out.
Yeah, the guys from 5th to 8th are also starting to work together a bit. Boyer gets the fastest lap of the race, 1:12.7. But here we are 3 wide for second place, and of course the leader is just a few centimeters in front of them.
It looks like the cars are starting to behave a little bit better on the corner exits. The tyre temp might have just taken or pressures a little bit longer to come up after the long caution period. It's quite possible those tyres would have been colder than at the race start. So I believe with this build they did code in tyre warmers for all the V7 tyre shod cars.
Yes, you are quite correct.
So that's why that restart could be the restarts could be the most challenging part of the race. The tyres potentially being colder than what they would have been when they went to the grid.
Still 2x2 here in the lead, 1 centimeter away from disaster, of course. As we have a driver in the pits, no Wheeler, but I think he just went on the pit entry part of the track, then came out, so basically triggered our pit stop detector there. No, we stay 4 wide here, and of course behind them you can see in a somewhat of a straight line, trying to work together somewhat the 4 guys behind them, but these 4 leaders are really putting on a great show, and honestly, everything that is happening right now, it's if they keep going like this, all that will matter will be the final corner. But of course, there is also the possibility of a mistake, and that could really put these drivers' races in big jeopardy, because it will be a very long recovery road if you get one lap down, exemplified by the fact that Isidro and Naubar still one lap down, really needing a caution. But of course, the caution being manually activated, they really need a big wreck to have it trigger.
So these front guys have started to play a bit nicer together. Not seeing them right out across the track as much as they were. I think they've seen that gap behind start to come down a little bit. That was about 4 seconds before, but that group behind has closed up half a second or so in the last couple of laps, and they're probably starting to be aware that if they continue to fight 3 and 4 wide into the entry of the corners, they're going to scrub off too much speed. It's really about having very smooth, minimal steering inputs so that the tires are sliding as little as possible. You see again, they're still closing this group, another 10th. So if it stays green like this and they keep working together in that second group of 4, they should be on course to catch up and make this an 8-way battle at the front. That will definitely be entertaining to watch, given what we're already seeing with these 4. So Cantu comes through and takes the lead.
You can see the gap closing, like you were saying, between the leaders and the secondary pack. 0.3 of a second last lap, 0.6 of a second the lap before. Now, of course, the leader changes, so the timing screen changes, but the reality is the same. These 4 guys behind are closing very quickly on the 4 guys in front.
Yeah, it's making it pretty much impossible for Wheeler or Kleinhagen to try and get back onto this group. They need a bit of help to get back up there in the form of a caution, I believe. Although Kleinhagen's not too far behind Wheeler on track. Wheeler might actually be better off lifting a little bit so Kleinhagen catches, and then they could work together, take turns of using the draft. But against the 4 cars in front, probably not much they can do until they get a caution. So again, these guys, Cantu right up against the wall there on the exit of 1.
And the skip Barber, doesn't need a lot of force in the impact to destroy the tires and the suspension, so you have to be super careful when you get up close to the wall, no?
Seem like they're all happy to take turns of rotating through to the lead at this stage. I think we'll soon get a bit more aggressive though as we get towards the end. Be interested to see if they can make it all the way on fuel with the restriction they've got. I'd say we'll probably still have to see them come into the lane though, because it's basically full throttle the whole way around unless you're sort of lifting a little bit like Hamilton is here, trying to save a little bit of fuel in the draft. But I can't imagine if we able to save enough to rule out having to stop again. So smart driving from Dustin here. You can see he's quite happy just to stay on the back and stay in touch with these guys. Just lifting a little bit there, not trying to get involved in anything crazy, and hopefully save some fuel in the meantime. second pack of drivers. Just heading into turn 3 here. So they're still working together quite well.
This paint, another I notice, is a bit like offset compared to the car. As Hamilton and Wedge go in the pits. This is the first time they go to the lane, so they were the only drivers together with Lance Snyder who are yet to stop.
So it seems like we're starting to see that fuel restriction come into play, and it's quite smart to go in the lane together. Under a green run, you definitely don't want to be going in there by yourself. You want to have someone to team up with again when you come out. So we should see some more stops quite soon if we continue to have this green run. Very close there from Collinson.
Oh, he's lining up the track.
Yeah, I think it may have been Collinson that slid up the track initially with that first incident we had. So he's having to put quite a bit of steering input in as he comes around the last corner there. Looked like he actually lifted a little bit there on the inside. Just happy to let the others go through and to tuck back in behind them. So the guys starting to play the fuel strategy, probably the forefront of their mind at the moment, because it's still a long way from the end. And they'll be wanting to minimize the stationary time. Oh, we've got a car in the wall.
It's no Wheeler, we have the breeze on the track, and that is going to be an unsafe pit entrance, I would imagine, because he went past the cone and into the pit lane.
So I think he might have just lost the car as he came in, tried to come into the lane.
Oof, he almost hit his opponent there.
Oh
wow.
Yeah. I think he got caught out by how quickly the other car slowed.
That unfortunately is going to be a penalty for him on top of the pit stop for the unsafe pit entrance, as now the two leaders left all alone, and of course behind them looming larger and larger Eisenman, Boyer, Collinson and Snyder, coming very close to the two leaders.
Yeah, it's been some very clever driving from this group to try and just gradually make their way back up towards the leaders. And interested to see where Wedge and Hamilton are after their stops as well. Just want to see where they came out on track. So yeah, it's quite some distance.
But they are still on the lead lap, crucially, so this will be good for them. At the very least, they didn't lose the lap.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out when the other stops. So it looks like it's about a 3/4 of a lap that they went down on the leaders when they stopped. So
other pit stops,
and here we go.
Careful.
Yeah, as we've seen, coming into the pits can be just as dangerous as battling out on track, but it is one of the opportunities to try and make up those little bits of time. So here we are with Wedge and Hamilton. They're still working together, taking turns of coming through to the lead, or potentially the lead. We'll find out when they come back around. Remember, we had a couple of cars stop for a top-up of fuel earlier. One of those was Isidro, but he's since had troubles. Can't remember who the other car was, so we may have someone with a shorter stationary time than the others here. Oh.
Careful, guys. The new tire model doesn't really like being put on the grass on other, what they are. Look at that, they are already racing, coming out of the pits. Careful with the
Oh.
penalties. Oh, that was very borderline for Cantu. And here come Wedge, Hamilton, for that is Snyder. So good recovery from some of these drivers. I'm not sure if Cantu has a penalty or not, because that was very, very close to touching the line coming out of the pits.
Yeah, he's definitely taking the risks there. We've got Iserman, who was in that second group. He's done very well there to save some fuel. So it looks like that second group did quite well, and the stationary time in the pits may have been a little bit shorter. Yeah, I'm just looking at the times here. They were stopped in the lane for about a second or so. A little bit less than a second difference between them and Hamilton and Wedge, who stopped first. So they were able to get out in front.
Oh, big hit.
Very,
that
very
car
dangerous
is
there, but
damaged. Big damage to the 13.
That is Iserman, unfortunately. After all that good work that he did on that previous stint, he's going to have to bring his car down the lane again under green flag conditions, and that's not going to bode well for his chances of getting through to the final.
We talked about this earlier. These cars can be very fragile, especially with wheel-to-wheel contact, and doesn't take much, especially at this speed. Almost like a Vettel Leclerc moment. And there you go, Iserman in the pits. And after, you were saying, rightfully so, after all this good work to get back to the front, oh dear me, look at Collinson sliding left and right, trying to... he's been certainly the driver that has been sideways the most tonight. He's really on the edge every time, but so far it has paid off for him, apart from causing, or at least playing a part in causing the big wreck at the start of the race. But now he's up to third place. Oh yeah, and Cantu very close to each other. Now Cantu goes very wide.
Yeah, I think Cantu had a bigger slide than he was anticipating there, and he had to lift a little bit to make sure he was going to recover that. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out, because they're going to come up on Wheeler.
No!
Oh!
Massive hit. Wow. Cantu and Dalton with big damage.
We might have to have a look at that again. That didn't look necessary at all on the straight. It was not even halfway through the race, so it's
maybe
not really time to get too aggressive.
Here we go.
Let's see what happened here. Oh.
Clipped the wall and then slightly moved to the left. They locked wheels, did Boyer with Cantu. Looked like Dalton, looked like Wedge, or at least one of the drivers who was about to get some big damage out of that, but that wasn't the case. We are still green, by the way, and poor John Cantu is having to drive around all the lap with the car in less than ideal conditions, with the nose basically, skidding, I would say, on the ground, and making it very slow and very, 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 very painful to come back to the pits in this condition. And he will certainly, as you look at the trap map, is at risk of losing one lap. Back to the leaders: Collinson, Boyer, and Dalton. So Dalton is okay. I thought this car was not in a... he had a damage for a split second, but that was the server. Of course, we know with the new damage model, sometimes the immediate response from the server might be different than the actual damage that the car has. So you get that magic repair after like 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, so well, yeah, well, I think he was probably the luckiest one out of that contact to survive. Would have been very easy for the front left of his car to get steering or suspension damage there, but looks like he's been able to fight on. So back here with Wedge and Hamilton in P4 and 5, that's continuing to work together. They've got quite a bit of work to do to get back up to that group. Now it's about
5 seconds,
4 seconds
from the lead.
Yeah, 4 to 5 seconds. So
John Cantu is back on the track, right in front of the leaders. He should be able to stay in front of them. Also fighting for position with Wheeler.
They'll probably get involved into a group here. So we'll see what happens with Cantu and Boyer get close together again. Hopefully nothing retaliatory.
Also, as we see, Cantu is on the apron there.
He's perhaps decided just to move out of the way, or he's coming to the lane again. Yep. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, interesting decision. I don't know what happened there, to be honest. Because if he had a penalty, unless he got tagged with a penalty coming out of the pits for unsafe pit entrance or speeding in the pits whilst leaving his pit stall. That is the possibility I'm thinking about for what just happened, as we have 3 leaders here, Boyer, Collinson and Dalton, dealing with the lapped car of Noah Wheeler, who has every right, of course, to fight for position, maybe opt for a caution and get that lap back.
Yeah, well, we did see them wave the cars around earlier, so he stayed just one lap down, and oh no,
Wedge in the wall. Oh, massive lag contact between the pair of them. That was very, very unfortunate. Let's see it again from the chopper, right? And you can see there was, I think, no contact at all between the two of them.
Yeah, I don't think either driver was expecting that. Hamilton was sort of moving around the track a little bit there, but definitely not enough to cause that. Oh, he's going to really struggle. He's probably have to take a tow here. So slowly, one by one, these drivers seem to be getting their name crossed out as contenders for the promotion position to the final. We've still got a battle up the front.
I wanted to ask you, being a driver from the southern hemisphere, how do you deal with I know this could be this is usually a problem for you guys now with sometimes big latency between yourselves and the rest of the world when racing, especially in a car like this, being so fragile and all. I think it must be something you have to take into account when you race.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case, particularly if like for us, if the race is on European server, then that's the worst case scenario for us. And then if you have multiple drivers from our region in that race, then you kind of have very, very large netcode issues, because you've got very close there. It's kind of exaggerated when you have two drivers from Australia or New Zealand on a European server close to each other. You kind of end up doubling the ping. But yeah, you just have to try and be aware of it, leave a little bit of extra room. Sometimes if I'm the only sliding up the track. Oh, that was very, very close to a disaster for the front group here.
Oh, look at the
Yes.
move down below to almost cut off his opponent there, which by the way is a lapped car of Noah Wheeler, but again with every right to be involved in the fight. As you can see here, Wheeler is fighting to stay on the lead lap, and rightfully so, I would imagine, hoping for a caution and to get the wave around. Oh, he clipped the grass. Careful.
Yeah, he's using all the track on the inside there and a little bit more. It's dangerous because the apron can quite easily pull the car around. And with the new update this season, there is much less grip off the racing surface than what there was previously, so it doesn't take much at all to get the car facing the wrong direction. But you're coming back to the latency issue. One of the things I have done, particularly in skippy races, if I've been the lone car from my region, quite often I've just let the other drivers know before the race started, just to make sure they're aware that I have the larger ping. Some of them will take notice and perhaps leave a little bit of extra room. Others won't pay any attention at all, but at least I've made them aware, because it can ruin other people's races as easily as it can mine, so I just try to let them know. So Wheeler is still hanging in there with this group. He's in P7 and he's fighting hard to make sure he stays with them, if not in front of them. If he catches the caution at the right time, he may be on the same lap. Otherwise, he's perfectly placed to get the lucky dog if they weigh the cars around again, like we saw earlier. So Collinson, you can see feathering the throttle a little bit there. Pulls out. I think he's pulling out more so just to slow the momentum of his car, not really to make a move. So we did see drivers be able to save.
Really sliding there across the wall. Also, of course, the presence of Wheeler's car is really affecting his lines. And now Collinson slicing through the two opponents, three wide situation here. Let's see, and of course look at that shot. Dalton waiting very calmly in third place, I think, waiting for a moment to strike, because even though it may seem strange, we are only 19 laps away from the end of the race, as Collinson is sliding again, and now Wheeler is sliding, almost going on the grass, then saving the car from going on the green stuff, but losing a ton of momentum. And I think now Dalton also will get past him, but I think, yes, he's going to stay with this pack for a bit longer with Noah Wheeler.
Probably not that far away from another. Sorry, yeah.
Very stiff.
Probably not that far away from another round of stops for fuel, actually. So interesting to see how that plays out for the second time. Yeah, you can see, as Marco was pointing out, Wheeler with a lot of wheel inputs there to try and get that car around the turn without losing momentum.
Let's see a comparison with Dalton. Maybe we see if he's almost like he's driving with a keyboard or something. See how much smoother Dalton is. Wheeler, you see, Look at that. How is he not crashing? Oh!
Yeah, it would
Oh!
appear he may be on the keyboard or a mouse control or something like that, rather than the wheel, which is usually their preferred input method for simulation. But obviously, not everyone has that ability to use one. So, and Collison just sliding around the outside there. Car's reasonably stable through turn 4 there. They really want to be wary of that side-to-side phantom contact that we saw earlier. And Hamilton's in the lane, so remember we saw Hamilton and Wedge come in the lane earlier than this group here before. Oh, and
Oh,
Boyer
in the
has
wall.
lost it, and he has gone up the track too far and made contact with the wall. It's very lucky. Somehow that car hasn't sustained too bad a damage from the looks of it.
Yeah, I thought for a second he was going to have to go back to the pits because he broke the front right, but no, back to the normal state again, the magic repair. So he's good to go, as I think at this point in time he should maybe think about heading for the pits, maybe to get a fast repair and not lose too much time, as still Wheeler fighting to stay on the lead lap with effectively I think okay, we have news from race control, and they are predicting debris on the track with 8 laps to go. So we might expect, I would say, a debris caution coming up in just a few laps.
Well, if any of the drivers tuned into the broadcast while they're out on track there, they might have just been able to get a little bit of a strategic advantage, perhaps. But as we've seen from the previous dinner with races events, they like to throw a curveball to the competitors in several different ways, and unexpected cautions and things like that are just one way that they like to spice up the racing in this series.
I was honestly surprised so far that there was not that there hasn't been something of the sort, like a a competition caution or something like that. So now they really, as someone is saying, they also have the technology to predict when the debris will come on the track. So I mean, this is next level. I mean, 21st century kind of stuff. So unbelievable organization from Dinner with Racers. And it will be an honor to welcome them to Italy tomorrow for the big finale at 9 p.m. Eastern on Dinner with Racers on the official YouTube channel, live from Monza. HPDs and Legends multi-class race on the oval turning right, because we are in Europe. That will be some great fun for everyone to determine the world champion of the first Dinner with Racer season, as Dalton and Collinson swap drafting. I think Boyer's car is still good. Apparently, after the scare he had earlier, he decided to stay out. As now Wheeler comes out of the pits, let's see the gaps. We have 6 drivers on the lead lap so far, and everyone else is just 1 lap down. So if we have the debris caution that's been predicted by race control, everyone could be promoted back to the lead lap if they are able to stay just 1 lap down. Careful with this. Mamma mia,
Yeah. Oh boy, yeah, decides to follow him in. Looks like a late call from Gavin there to come into the lane. Looks like his car is crabbing along a little bit there, but he was still able to hold the pace.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Look at the crabbing there.
Steering right hand down just a little bit, but he was able to stay on it. But yeah, if he can come and get that fast repair, he'll have a drafting partner when he comes out the lane there. Kleinhagen in the lane as well. Obviously Hamilton already stopped. He was the first of the lead lap runners to come down the lane, so see how far he's able to gain, if any, on these guys. Oh, side by side out the lane, but Boyer decides he'll just slot in behind Collinson. So Hamilton was about that 4 or 5 seconds behind previously. Looks like he may be again. Doesn't look like he's got anyone to work with now either, because was Wedge, which had that issue before. So he's lost his drafting partner that he had. And Schneider comes down the lane.
You can see the lights are now on the iRacing Mustang pace car, so technically this should be headlights on time, but no headlights, and of course no stadium lights on the track, so these drivers will have to contend with the incoming darkness onto the racetrack. It's still pretty clear out there, so I guess it shouldn't be too much of an issue as we are heading into the final 12 laps of the race. And again, we remind you there has been a prediction of a possible debris caution with 8 to go as Dalton comes in from the lead.
You can see these drivers struggling with the tyres when they come out of the lane again. I'm not sure, I didn't see any cars, didn't look like they were actually taking new tyres. But they'd definitely be cooling while they're sitting in the lane that long and transiting the lane at such a slow speed. I think it's a 60 mile an hour pit lane speed here. The temperatures are likely dropping as well as the sun gets lower past the horizon. Oh, Gavin probably leaving it a little too late to pull out of the draft there. So no contact made, but we saw with the lag or netcode issues before, I'd probably like to leave a little bit bigger gap. And Dalton's just come out. Oh, Collinson again with the sliding.
So Dalton is all alone there at the front, but
yeah,
I think he will be caught back because he has no help.
Yeah, it's a healthy gap, but he's pretty much got a target on the back of that car when he's out there by himself. If he had the lap down car in front of Charles Canab, I think it is, that's just up in front of him a little bit. Though he feels a bit closer, they might have been able to work together to fend off that group, but unfortunately for Dalton, that's not the case. We may see all 5 of these cars bunch up quite soon. And Boyer gets a lot of momentum heading down into the turn there. It's a double draft from the 2 cars. Well, Collinson's still having a look at the inside though. Surprising to see Gavin getting so close to the wall on the exits after the incident we saw before. He's still happy to use as much of the track as he can. And almost 3 wide.
Oh, almost contact with the lapped car of Wheeler there.
So Wheeler at the moment is still the first car a lap down. When they catch Knab up in front, then that's going to be a battle between those two to try and be the first car lap down. So that could make things a bit spicy when this group bunches up into a group of 5, which looks like it inevitably will. Although we're probably not far away from the predicted caution. Ooh. Again, we can see the sort of not so smooth inputs from Noah there.
Isidro is in the pits as well.
Ooh, this could be a good tactic, whether he knows it or not, because if he makes a stop now, probably just before the caution, then he might be able to stay on track the whole caution and gain some track position there. These guys are not racing like they. Oh, it's contact.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Big hit.
Yeah, they're definitely. I was about to say they're definitely not racing like they know there's a caution coming, and
This time it's big damage for Boyer. Collinson will have to serve a penalty for unsafe pit entrance, but at the very least he will be able to get the fast repair as soon as possible.
yeah, the penalty will probably cost him less than limping around or towing. So,
which is what will happen to Boyer, unfortunately for him.
Really struggling with his car.
Wheeler blew his engine, I think.
I think he just can't get traction because of the way the car is there, but he's had to tow. I think that's a wise move. He probably would have blew the engine if he continued to try that. Or so Boyer gets into the back of Wheeler, who comes back across, and then, yep. Unfortunately, Collinson didn't really have much to do with that, and was a bit of an innocent bystander and got quite quickly escorted into the lane, missing a wheel.
And that comes back.
So Dalton, who was out in front, looked like he was going to get caught by that group, but now a comfortable lead. If our caution comes out quite soon, he might be a bit disappointed to see that lead disappear, because...
Oh, no!
Gavin's really struggling to get that car back to the box.
Caution!
Here's the magical predicted caution for debris, and debris there was on track, so quite accurate in the prediction. So somebody definitely knows more than we know.
I like the way that wheel was launched and then reappeared again.
And Collinson just stayed in the throttle. I mean, it's really all he could do, just hoping that Gavin's car didn't bounce back out off the wall quite as quickly as it did. And he almost made it past.
And we are under caution.
So we'll have to see how this shakes out with fuel, because there'll be some cars that probably still need a top up to get to the end, and others that stopped recently with the caution fuel saving. They're pretty safe to get to the end, I imagine. So we'll see. The question now is probably going to be who gets the wave around, how many cars we end up with on the lead lap.
Now it's getting pretty dark out there.
Yeah, these last few laps will be probably still just enough light for these guys, but it might get a little bit harder to sort of be aware of the closing speeds. Sometimes when it gets a bit darker like that, the closing speed to the car in front can catch you unawares a little bit. It's just a little bit harder to sort of get that sort of depth of field.
Good
So
call from
Kleinhagen comes
Kleinhagen
in.
here. Good call, because even if the other drivers get a wave around, they will stay behind him because they are wave arounds. So the worst he can do is start in fourth place basically. So grab fresh tires. If you need a top up, and then go like crazy for this final, I guess, 4 laps of the restart. So good call there.
Yeah, if the drivers haven't taken tires prior to this would be an opportune time to take them and then work on getting them warmed up under the pace laps as much as possible. If you can start this restart with fresh tires and have them up to temperature, which that'd be a pretty good position to be in. Although getting temperature might be a bit of a challenge, because now we're heading into the darker conditions. So the track temps fallen to 23 degrees and 22 ambient, so it's not hasn't the track surface doesn't cool down quite as quickly as it used to, because we've now got modeling of the temperature beneath the track surface for several layers, and that's modeled over, I think, 3 days
3
prior.
days, yes.
So it's a much more realistic track temperature modeling, which iRacing have put together. A lot of people probably aren't aware, but you know, nothing that you sort of the intangible things that you don't see that happen behind the scenes. But I think it's all working towards when we have wet weather introduced. I think that modeling of the surface beneath, or the modeling of the temperature beneath the surface, will really come into its own once we get the wet weather, whenever that happens, and the transition from wet track to dry. I think that's when that information is going to be very, very useful. So, but still quite cool conditions, but nice conditions for racing. A little bit more light perhaps for these drivers might be their preference. You can see the pace car demonstrating exactly how dark it has got out there. See the cars going around for their wave around laps. Looks like Cantu, is it? That's just made his way around. No, it wasn't Cantu. Must have been Knaub.
Yeah, here comes Cantu. Wheeler is the only guy 2 laps down. Don't know if he will get 1 or 2 wave arounds. Whatever the case, we are getting ready. I think next time by we will go green, and this will be it for this last chance playoff of the Dinner with Racers Continental Tire Cup, that tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern will determine the champion of the world for the first season at Monza, with a multi-class race on the oval, turning right with the LMP2s and some very special guests running with the Legends car. It's going to be great, and once again it will be at 9 p.m. Eastern, or if you live in the UK, 2 GMT in the morning, and of course if you live in Italy like me, it will be 3 in the morning. But whatever the case, it's pretty dark out there. Look at that. Okay, something is definitely wrong here, because Isidro now is scored in first place, which is not correct.
He was scored in 5th or 6th. and they were behind the pace car there. So just have to wait and see how that
Might be
shakes out.
might be a timing tower error. Whatever the case, the lights are out on the pace car, and so we are going to go green for hopefully the final time tonight, and we have a clean, nice race until the end.
And we've still got the other cars trying to make their way around. Should see most of them make it. And I'm just looking on the track map. Looks like Isidro is slowing. So I think that was maybe an error. Maybe
Delayed
miscommunication
green.
from race control.
Delayed green. Delayed green.
Okay, Isidro is actually coming down the lane now. So it's a little bit confusing. And you can see it's getting very, very dark out there. So that depth of field perception of that's going to be quite challenging in these last couple of laps. And it's going to be almost impossible to predict what's going to happen here as we see. So, I mean, Dalton's been strong, Hamilton's been quick, Kleinhagen's been down the lane, got fresh tyres, and Iceman's had his moments up there. We saw Boyett and Collinson all fighting up towards the front. Wedge has been up there until he had his trouble, and Isidro was in the lead before one of the earlier cautions. So they've all basically had a turn up the front at one point or another, and then we're going to have a drafting train heading into the last couple of laps.
At the very least, if we have a crash, which we don't hope for, but if it happens, we'll see some very nice sparks. Because it's quite dark out there, and now the lights are out once again on the pace car. Here comes Isidro, now back in his correct position, as you can see here. So Wheeler will be the only driver one lap down. He only got one wave around, as I think it's correct to do, and therefore, here we go. Look at the longest line with all the wave arounds. Oh man, look at that. It's almost like an old school NASCAR restart, but reversed. I mean, of course, the lapped cars go on the inside, but as a matter of fact, we have the most of the cars on the left got the wave around, so basically only 4 cars were on the lead lap at the start of the caution. So
The little lamp there on the back of the Skippy might come in very useful in these last couple of laps for these drivers. I don't think they've probably ever really had to pay too much attention to it before, but here we go. Safety cars in the lane, and Dalton's got control of the start.
caution.
Oh. Not 100% sure what's happened there. The lights are out on the safety car. On the roof, that is. Fortunately, the headlights aren't. Otherwise, the safety car driver could be in trouble.
This is strange because you are right, the safety car lights are out.
Now, we can see some of the drivers working to warm their tyres. Others are not doing so. That might prove crucial in the last couple of laps that we do get. those dark coloured cars are almost camouflaged out there now.
Oh, here we go.
He does peel into the lane.
That was strange.
It was quite late too, I think, but looks like we've got a couple of laps of green flag racing here. Dalton gets the jump. Momentarily, we see the cars lit up from the lights of the safety car in the lane there.
There will be
And
no
back
yellow
into the-
flags. We've been told by race direction, so the way it finishes, it finishes. This is it for these drivers. It's basically a green-white checkered, this one now.
So everyone jockeying for position. And we're seeing Kleinhagen come through to the front already. He's one of the drivers who's definitely got a fresh set of tyres. So 3 wide. No one too keen to... a little bit of contact perhaps there on the outside. Oh, and he goes up the track.
And he's
More
spinning,
contact.
he's spinning. Big one!
Oh yeah, makes it through.
Oh man!
Lots
Massive
of drivers
wreck.
involved in that one. Iceman, Dalton.
They are still wrecking.
Iceman,
Look
Dalton,
at that.
Cantu, and Boyer all made it through.
So
Boyer was very, very lucky. Car went straight across his nose.
4 drivers for the win. White flag in the air. Sale la Blanca here at Indianapolis. This is so close,
2
Brad.
by 2. 2 by 2. This is the last lap. Iceman slides up the track a little bit, gives Cantu a little bit of a nudge there, I believe. They're 4 wide.
Great move there.
No
Great move from Dalton. But will it be advantageous to stay in front once you come on the start-finish line because the draft is so strong? But let's see.
Boyer could be playing a tactical move here. He's hung back. Now he's making the move down to the inside. No one's going to be lifting from this point.
Here we go.
Boyer got a run.
Oh,
the contact.
And Iceman.
Is it Iceman? Is he going to make it though? Cantu's got a run. Definitely.
Iceman wins. Cantu with the fastest lap of the race, but that was not enough as we have some very, very damaged race cars sitting around the track. What a finish. It was super close, but in the end, Drew Iceman, after 4 pit stops and a very up and down race, is able to punch his ticket into the grand finale tomorrow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful victory for him. Let's have a look once again at this restart, because that was absolutely crazy, especially if we consider this massive wreck that happened here.
Yeah, there's plenty of action to review there. That was Hamilton, was it?
Yeah.
That he was sliding up the track a little bit.
And there was a secondary wreck on the start-finish line, which involved other drivers.
You can see the sparks, the being so dark. The car rolling around on its roll hoop. Well, it might have been the car outside moving down the track as well. I think they were moving up and down simultaneously and made contact there. And then, that was Knab on the roll hoop. And here we go with this run is there. So Boyer comes down to the bottom, and yeah, at this stage, no one's going to lift. You got to keep the momentum, and the only way He chose to go to the inside, but there just wasn't room. Yeah, there wasn't room to come back up on the track there, unfortunately. But no such trouble for Drew. He was just able to hold off John Cantu and punch his ticket through to tomorrow's event.
So in just a second we will have your final race results for the Dinner with Racers Continental Tire Cup last chance event here in Indianapolis, and here we go. Maybe. Well, we didn't have the race results last time around in Road Atlanta, so
well, we have we can run through them from the timing software. I believe that should be right.
yes.
So obviously,
Big apologies, of course.
Drew Iserman came across the line with a very narrow victory over John Cantu. Then Charles Kleinhagen was able to come home in third. Lance Snyder in fourth. And then the guys that were really involved in that sort of carnage towards the end there, we had Benjamin Wedge came across in fifth. Hamilton ended up sixth. Then Isidro in seventh. Chad Dalton in eighth. Gavin Boyer ended up ninth after that contact. Charles Canard was classified 10th, upside down on his roll hoop. And then Noel Wheeler was already a lap down prior to that. And he was 11th. And Jeffrey Collison ended up 12th. And Sean Heckman was 13th, but he was out of the race quite early. So pretty crazy racing as we predicted. The damage model in full effect, sliding, drafting, lots of action, and sets us up for a great event tomorrow. What are your thoughts heading into that one, Marco?
I mean, that will be absolutely crazy. The closing speeds of the HPDs compared to the legend cars, the fact that the track is super bumpy, super narrow, and let's be honest, absolutely not at the safety standards of a modern racetrack, will make for a exhilarating finale here of the Dinner with Racers Continental Tire Cup. And hopefully, Brad, you will be joining me tomorrow.
Yes, that is the plan. I will be there, and yeah, looking forward to it, especially after what we saw tonight. Tomorrow we'll have a larger field of competitors and the multi-class speed difference. I think it's going to be some crazy action to close out the Dinner with Racers season.
Awesome. So thank you very much for joining us once again tomorrow at 3 a.m. if you are in Central Europe, 2 a.m. if you are in the UK, or 9 p.m. Eastern if you live in the United States. And of course, you can make the calculations for the other time zones, but I don't know which is the time zone. Oh, as a track, basically, they turned off the lights. Okay, so when will it be,
But
in your part of the world, Brad?
1 p.m. So a
Perfect
nice
time.
early afternoon race. But yeah, it looks like the guys at the facility have turned the lights off to send us on our way. So with that, we'll say farewell for this evening, and we'll see you all back at the same time tomorrow for what promises to be an action-packed event. Thanks for joining us.